Our second panel session today is on international and regional cooperation. The moderator for the session is Mr. Alfons Westgeest. Alfons, could we have you up on stage, please? He's a partner of the Kellen company, the managing partner of Kellen Europe and China. As a group vice president, he leads Kellen's company's global development. We work in affiliation with him in our offices, as well as affiliates in Europe, USA, India, China, Asia, the Middle East, and South America. Alfons is a part of the global networks of professionals in public relations, government affairs, conferences, and association management. He has 30 years of experience in regional and global associations for various industries and professions, for several industries such. He's a former board member of the American Society of Association Executives and a fellow since the year 2006. Alfons has received the 2011 Outstanding Contribution to EU Public Affairs Award. The panelists for this session include Mr. Daniel Tschudy. Daniel? Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see you. Daniel is a speaker, coach, consultant, and publicist. His topics are intercultural behavior in the global business environment, international relations, the shifts from west to east and north to south, as well as the global meetings. He often focuses on the emerging markets in Africa, Arabia, and Asia, and he particularly features China and Japan. His cross-cultural competence is supported by his partnership with the UK-based Richard Lewis Communications and their so-called Lewis model. Daniel writes for various publications and often speaks to the corporate community as well as at business schools and universities. Our next panelist is Dr. P.C. Sabarwal. Sir, may we have you on stage? Dr. Sabarwal is the Executive Director for the World Association of Small and Medium Enterprises. He possesses a variety of experience in the socio-economic cultural fabric of the rural community, with comprehensive experience and understanding in several subjects. Dr. Sabarwal is an MSc in agriculture, a PhD in watershed management, and also holds a degree of law, very highly educated. After serving for 35 years in the government of India, he retired at a very senior position in the year 2003. He has worked as a senior director in an international university for over 8 years. At present, he's fully engrossed with the development of the MSME sector world over. Dr. Sabarwal is the Executive Director of the World Association for Small and Medium Enterprises. Our next panelist is Mr. Rajesh Nath, the Managing Director of the German Engineering Federation. Mr. Nath? With 3,000 member companies divided into 38 specialized industrial sectors, the largest industrial association not only in Germany, but in the whole of Europe. Founded in the year 1892, it now has a 118-year history. This association, with a workforce of over 400 employees, reflects the production process from components to plants, from system suppliers to integrators to service providers. They have several offices in India, and it helps to foster Indo-German trade in the engineering sector. Our next panelist is Dr. Gopal Gupta. Sir? Dr. Gopal Gupta is the immediate past chairperson of the Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineers. He is a senior director in the Ministry of Communications and Information Technology, which is the key ministry in having a leading edge to India world over in promoting information technology and its applications. The present assignments include initiating measures to use ICT tools for the enhancement of productivity and employment generation in different sectors of the economy. Dr. Gupta is also responsible for initiating a multi-institutional program on national competitiveness in the knowledge economy. Our last panelist for this afternoon is Mr. Nalin Kohli, President of the Association of Small and Medium Knowledge Industries. He is a fellow of the Institution of Electronics and Telecommunication Engineers. Mr. Kohli has served as the chairman of Electronics and Computer Software Export Promotion Council, chairman Defense SME Committee of the Confederation of Industry Indian Industry, Chairman Subgroup on Emerging Technologies for the 12th Five-Year Plan in the Ministry of Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises. He has served on the board of directors of several government organizations of India.
Thank you very much. I think I have a bit of a challenge to make sure that you get good value out of this session, but I think we can make it work. I believe that the audience is getting more and more interactive, which is good, because the more you spread, the more you get to know each other, the more you get out of it as well. I know that I'm between this and a break. That is probably well deserved. So what I would like to do is to have a quick round with each of the panelists, briefly, because you're already introduced, expressing your experience with working on an international level and giving your personal view, what works for you in the international field, so that each of us gets an idea of what is working for you. Then we will do an audience questionnaire, which will be done by table, so that you can exchange among tables. And then fire back questions to us as a panel. And then in closing, we try to make, maybe if time allows, a brief closing statement where we give some experience or a takeaway, what you would recommend to the audience, the one thing you recommend to the audience when they like to succeed internationally. So I have no particular order except the order here in the panel. So Nalin, I would like to start with you for 2 minutes of what is your view and experience in international development.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
The microphone, please.
The mic working?
There it is.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks. I would like to share my experience with the Electronics and Software Export Promotion Council, which I had the privilege to chair. Now, this council is a government-sponsored council with about 2,300 member companies to promote IT exports from India. About 70% of India's IT exports is to the US, 20% to Europe, and 10% to the rest of the world. So we were looking at ways how to bring about cooperation between our small and medium members, particularly with US industry. And we encouraged them to set up a local presence in the US. And we were looking for soft landing opportunities for them in the US. The first, we created groups of 5 companies which were non-competing in nature. And these companies were doing business with the US already, except that they didn't have a local presence there. So the first group was set up in Maryland in the US, and the second one in Virginia. And this encouraged these companies to work with the local associations in the respective states. And it was a great win-win situation where the larger Indian IT companies like TCS, Wipro, Infosys, they all had companies in the US. But the smaller companies, they could not afford on their own. So this was one great success story of international cooperation.
Thank you. Thank you. Excellent story, and within the 2 minutes. Rajesh, your story.
Yeah. I represent the German Engineering Federation. Now, this is an association of German machinery and plant manufacturers. It's the largest industrial association in Europe. So it was basically around, I would say around 15 to 18 years back, exactly maybe 17 years back, when the members within our association, the German companies, saw the need that the market was developing outside Europe. So it was important for them at that stage to establish presence. In fact, that time the concept of BRIC had not yet evolved. So they were looking at opportunities in evolving markets. And that is how the setup in India, we started the operations around 14 to 15 years back. Now, what was the challenge here when we set up the operation? Certainly, VDMA was very well known in Germany, but in India, people hardly knew about it. Or the people who were doing business with Germany, they knew about it. So what we managed to establish here was networking with the local associations. Since we are primarily an industrial association, so our focus was to connect with the association, the sectorial associations present in India, be it, for example, in the mining sector, machine tool sector, construction equipment sector, and that is how we established the network here. And in fact, I'm proud of the fact that India was the first overseas office of VDMA, and based on the Indian experience, VDMA went ahead and set up offices later on in China, in Russia, and recently we set up an office in Brazil also. So that has been basically our take on it and how we established ourselves here in India.
Thank you again for keeping in a short story and almost a mirror of what we heard first. Third,
I am working with an international organization called Small and Medium Entrepreneurs. We are helping them. We are not helping any big industries, but we are serving only micro, small and medium. During my tenure in this organization, which is called WASME in short terms, it's a very old organization established about 3.5 decades earlier. What we have seen is that though big industries and big corporate sectors, they have their hand in maintaining their relations and cooperation in the international sector, but these small entrepreneurs, they are finding huge difficulties, many difficulties, which during my course of discussions I'll let you know. They are facing a lot of difficulties which have to be seen at government and at international level also. So their main constraint, which during my course of working with these organizations has been the finance, which these small organizations are they find it very difficult to arrange finance. Although Government of India has issued many instructions to the banks, I'm talking of micro. Now, the RBI, Reserve Bank of India, has issued instructions that up to 1 crore, no collateral security is required for micro entrepreneurs, but still they are finding it very difficult to arrange and organize finance. So these hardships, which I'll later on tell you, there are many more. If we can cover those hardships, I think they can have a very good international trade and international cooperation with other countries also. I'll come to that.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Also, another perspective. Maybe I can move to you from the India perspective on the professional society.
Okay. Basically, I'm representing here IEEE, which is the largest professional society of electrical and electronics engineers in the world over. We have about 400,000 members all over the world in 160 countries. And 50% of the members are outside from US. This also contains about 120,000 members as student members. The organization has, in the different sectors of technology, about 38 societies, which are purely on the technical advice, developing technology, developing documents, developing scientific papers and standards. The basic aim of any professional organization, which is voluntary in nature, is two-way. One is to collect the information, which is of the use for the members. Second, to distribute this information or disseminate this information by the means so that it reaches to each and everyone. And third is that to share the experience, to share the knowledge which you have with the young generation, which is in the school and colleges kind of a thing. So IEEE is like a organization which is doing a charity in the sense, one, to create the information, to create the knowledge by means to associate their members and generate that information, and then effectively disseminate this information to the members. As long as we are able to, match these two things, I think any professional organization, will be performing its duty. My role in India, when I took up IEEE as a member, as a senior member, I joined there. I didn't know much before on that. But my role was very effective in India because I tried to disseminate and generate the information through the local societies in India. Like, what you make a mistake that if you are an international organization, you feel that, you know, others are nowhere compared to you. But what I did was, I tried to match, like, what are the organizations which are working in India, particularly where I am, and then how to get together of them. So we generated an idea of sister society concern. We tried to celebrate some of the functions with them. So this is the way which we have worked, and I think is one of the successful organizations as on today. As you see, they represent in 160 countries. They have the largest professional body. They have developed standards which are internationally used, and they generate income on that. Second is by generating the information from the members, which is in a kind of freely, you know, accessible. They make money out of this. Out of this information, they publish it, and I think 60% of their revenues come from their publication. 40% of the revenue come on the basis of this information only. They conduct conferences in different parts of the country. And these conferences are sponsored both by the local peoples and the industry because the information is vital. So the success of any organization is that you should have a right kind of information, which should be the best available, and then you find the ways of distributing.
Thank you. And I think local, vital, and you are competing with Google, as we say, for information.
We are not competing with anybody.
You're the top.
We are ready to accept an extent to give our information to them, to make it public so that maximum people can utilize that information. So we are not in competition. We are generation for their information.
That's right. Daniel, a viewpoint from your side, given your background.
Well, I've started in tourism in '71, so I've been a couple of decades in the business. I've worked for governments. I worked for international tour operator out of Asia. I co-founded a company called MCI in Geneva, Congress Management, Association Management, now everywhere in the world. And a couple of years ago, I decided sort of to conclude the whole thing, and I became a global citizen because I traveled the world. I lived in 6, 7 countries. I lived in Canada, I lived in England, in France, Japan, China. And also I became a JABC, which of course means just another bloody consultant. I'm consulting on global issues, how to work together, how to bring business forward into other continents. And it's not only about emerging markets. It is also the question to bring a business from Switzerland to Romania or from South Africa to Nigeria. So this has become my topic, and to come to India, and thank you for inviting me on the panel, and for Prasant to invite me here to Jaipur is a gift for me, of course, because you have such a multicultural society, and it's fantastic here to watch how business should become international. And then I have a few notes maybe later on how we can bring, or when or how, Indian associations into the world.
Okay.
Thank you.
Now, instead of going for individual questions, I have a challenge for you. We have round tables. We have people around the tables, around the round tables. What I would like each of you to do, because I need you to engage and to be active, because the break is not yet there. Please stay in the room. Don't use this as an excuse to walk out. Just stay around the table and discuss for about 3 minutes. Get to know each other quickly and find out what you think is important for you on the international field. Try to come up maybe with one question, but the most important is get to know and learn from each other what you're doing internationally. I give it a good 3 minutes. Please start now. share information around your table. Please do. Get going, 3 minutes.
They do that. They actually do.
Yeah, that's a good way.
Because
This is IEEE. Let me tell you that.
One more minute, one more minute.
So I'll just go around. Yeah?
They should almost have two people depend, but I try to move. So.
Okay. Okay, you let me know.
Yeah.
the topic's like.
Okay. All right, we are done. We are done, we are done. So we already got one question written, but raise your hand when you have something that's really burning you want to have answered by the panel. Please raise your hand. What about, let's see, this table here? Any of the tables here? You must have a question that you are struggling. Who's first? There. Oh, on the other side. There's one. Oh, you make a statement. That's good, but short.
You're complaining.
You're complaining. You want a break.
So we'll just share what we have been discussing. So basically, here are people from 3 different societies.
Okay.
And 2 of them technical,
right.
And I believe one of them is also technical, isn't it? Now we're discussing how we can benefit from international cooperation. So one thing that came to our mind, that it could be like if you can sign MOUs with different international
memorandum of understanding
yes.
between different counterparts.
Yeah. And just I will share that in our institute, we are having such collaboration, like in the area of technical journal, and it's working very well with American Welding Society.
Okay, thank you.
The second area is that we have with 2 or 3 societies, we are putting up the respective journals on the website. It doesn't mean any cost. So these are becoming very beneficial. So I don't have any question at this moment.
Okay,
yes,
thank you.
Okay.
That's a good contribution. We move back there with the microphone. Any quick comments from that? MOUs, we do actually, I do have an MOU with my association in battery manufacturing with a renewable energy storage institute in India. And those are the type of MOUs that work for us. Go ahead.
Yeah, three or four points which came out from our table were that we're firstly looking at collaborating and working together. Sorry, 2 or 3 points which came out from our table here were that one thing which we're looking at is moving towards togetherness, which it's an old Indian philosophy of going towards togetherness instead of competition or having an edge over the other. That is one thing which came out. Second thing which came out is that some members believe that collaborations must be in equals because otherwise one ends to take advantage of the other and oversee them. The third which came out is the fact that...
Can you hear us in the back? Okay, continue.
Okay. And the third thing which came out, or the thing was that the collaboration at the end of the day, whether it's in equals or unequals, does lead to sustainable growth, both for the organizations and the society. So, to have a more collaborative structure, whether it is formalized in the form of MOUs or agreements, or it is more in terms of the societal setups, like associations and chambers, I think is an advantageous to both any kind of societal setup.
Thank you. Next one. I think you mentioned the word sustainability, togetherness. I think essential points for cross-cultural and international collaboration. Next in the room, there, two tables to the left, lady. To other side. There you go.
Yeah, we have on the table an organization which is representing India and EU, European Union, another one from Sweden and India, and a dental association. And we were wondering that in this age of the Google and with all the web services that are available for, you don't even know where you're booking your air ticket from, which country or which restaurant you're going to. What is it that these physical organizations, the physical entities need to bring to the table to convince their membership that there is value in it?
Thank you. Next was also a question. Yes, pass the mic.
It's an observation which is slightly different than most of the persons talked about it. My experience is that we sign MOUs with the professional societies, which Dr. Gupta also talked about it, and it becomes more of an ornamental from both the sides, and hardly any benefit comes which is of worth mentioning.
Thank you. Let's start answering 2 questions here. We got one for you.
Yeah, I think there was the first question which is written here is, I will take this. How does IEEE US helps India? I think the question itself is wrong. There is no IEEE US. IEEE is a global organization which has members from almost all countries who want to become. They have a system of getting the membership made. And as on today, as I have told you, we have about 430,000 members. And out of these members, 50% members are from outside India. It so happens that it was started early, so members from US has started coming up, pouring it in the beginning. But now the ratio is changing, and in fact, in few days later, you will find that this has been, the other outside members are in more than the US members. So the question itself is, I think, little contradictory. But I will just tell you how does IEEE helps in India. Like I've told you, IEEE is basically a source of an organization where we generate information and then disseminate this information. We generate this information on the basis of their members plus outside the members. And we have created the information in such a way that everybody would like to have the recognition that this paper or this information is of use to the world society. And once this is, you have created a kind of a, the structure, the way that if your paper is published in this, all people, like for your admission, for your employment, for your credibility, if you have published in IEEE, then this has been recognized as that you have done something standard for.
Okay.
So this is very important because you have to create, you have to make sure whatever you are producing, this has been securitized, this has been recognized, and this has added to the knowledge of the world. Like somebody just, I think you asked and somebody else has asked that you have a different search engines and therefore these search engines can give you all the information. I think you are wrong. Where are those people getting this information? Google is not generating the information itself. Google is taking the information from the people, and to create contents is a big challenge in India. I was in the Ministry of Information Technology, and we know that how much money we have spent to generate the information.
I think I challenged you really by naming Google. I know I got you in a discussion, but this is important.
No, I'm just saying that any search engine or anything, Nath is a tool to access this information. But this information has to be generated by you. And the tool is necessary only when you have the information. It's like you have an accountant and here, but you have to generate money to create a job for the accountant to count your money. Otherwise, if you don't generate, then there is no use of this keeping an accountant. Similarly, if you don't have a productivity, there is no use of developing systems and system analysis. Because the productivity is the main manufacture base of any country or any society. And unless you do that kind of a thing, all the other things are just tools, a kind of a equipment which you will use. So having said that, I think I will come to Dr. Pal's question, which is very relevant.
Yeah, but
I think I have to answer.
Okay.
Yeah, just one thing. Dr. Pals has taken as the president of IEEE, which is the largest Indian-based organization in the telecommunication engineering area. And if you look at the back of the history, we from IEEE has initiated the memorandum of understanding with IEEE, saying that first of all they are giving even the concession rate in the membership. Like if you are a member of IEEE, then you get 10% rebate automatically in the international organization. This is the biggest boon which has been given to the Indian society. Second, what we did was that though we in IEEE has a kind of a minimum standard for accepting papers, we made in this memorandum of understanding that whatever papers IEEE sent, 2 papers in each journal, we will publish it under the cooperation thing. in that particular journal where you cannot, go down to the standard.
I have to short you here.
Okay.
Because I think that's a lot of information and value, but I would like to go from there and then have Daniel close off with some remarks on global cooperation. Thank you.
I would have two responses. The first one about when everything can be done on the web, where is the need for physical presence? So the example that I gave you, actually cannot be done without a physical presence, because the whole international cooperation model was built on an Indian company, Indian small company going to the US, incorporating a company there. Our partners in the US were helping them to incorporate a US company and helping them in marketing leads. So it was actually, it did require a physical presence. Another question which came from the first table on compatibility between partner organizations. Here I would like to share something with this. This is a huge issue. In fact, we had a conflict situation with the partner association. The partner association in the US were trying to promote US exports to India. And we were trying to promote Indian exports to the US. So there was a huge conflict, although there was a desire to cooperate. So we sat down and we said, okay, how can we create an area where we can both cooperate? And we said, the products that you make for India is very good in IT services, but we are not very strong in IT products and solutions. So we said the products that you make for US market, some of them can be customized for the Indian market. Please use one of our members to customize that product for the Indian market. And not only you are addressing the Indian market, many of the emerging markets would also have similar needs like African market or the SAARC market. And so it became a great win-win for both.
Right.
They were helping us in the US market. We were helping them in the Indian market as well as in other developing countries.
Thank you. That's a very good point, because it means that you look at things you can agree upon and that you also agree where you disagree and you move on.
Yeah, I would come to the question of this value for the members. As VDMA, one of our strength lies in our statistics. I think the statistics that VDMA collects is perhaps not available anywhere else in the world. So the statistics data is very important for our members, because that gives them information how big a particular market is in a particular region or a country. So this is one of the, I think, the USPs of VDMA. Otherwise, another important point is also how best you can engage the members. The physical presence, that is why is important, because it is important you build a network within the members also, so that the members know each other as well as a group. You have a voice and you can take up issues what concern the members. So this connectivity among members, we have what we call a management meeting in particular industrial sectors, which we do twice in a year, where the heads of the companies come together. And this is an important crux of our activities, and I think this is one aspect which the members also value a lot, the networking within the members itself.
Thank you. Yeah. Excellent. PC.
Yeah. I'll come back to the international cooperation and regional cooperation. We are working for international cooperation, of course, along with the regional cooperation. For international cooperation, one of the speakers also said, we need to have database for marketing. What is the demand, international demand for our entrepreneurs? What is the supply we can make? Or what is the prices? Price is the main thing which our traders, our entrepreneurs are not getting quite recent information that is not available to them. If this information is available to them, I think they can go ahead with that. But along with that, they have certain other difficulties also. Like our entrepreneurs, they don't have that much innovative technologies with them. It is not that India has now no technology. India is very much ahead of innovative technology, but it is not reaching the SME sector. If that technology can be made available to them, at a reasonable price and reasonable rates, I think they can do better. Because Indian technology is a jugaad technology both that is very famous with us. If they can do jugaad technology, they can also adopt innovative technology. They are very clever that way. Thirdly, they should also be supported with the international connectivity. I mean road connectivity or market connectivity, which is also not available so far, so much. So all these factors, along with the finance availability and the export procedures, which are very cumbersome for our entrepreneurs, they have to be simplified. I think if we can resolve all these issues, our international cooperation and international trade can have a very better and higher position as we have now.
Thank you. Thank you, PC. Daniel, your last word on recommendations.
We're over time, but I'd like to just give 3 thoughts specifically also to
1 minute each
to your task maximum. First of all, I would like to raise that issue that whether you need to go international has to be clarified in each association. The majority of associations are smaller and medium-sized associations, and I think everybody comes into this hype of going around the world and needing to do business with China and with the US and Mexico and South Africa. And I'd like to just caution, I've seen over the last 20, 30 years so much money spent for nothing, so many travels, so many trade shows, so many initiatives, data exchange, etc., in vain, because after 1 or 2 years the money was spent, the person lost the energy, the board was not happy with the outcome. So the question, do you need to go international, has to be at the beginning, sorry, not at the end. Just one example, in Switzerland we have a series of associations that focus on the EU, for example, and we have a series of associations that specifically do not go to the EU because they know their product, their services is aimed at the Swiss, at a local audience or at a local community. But the question whether you need to go international is an important one, and you need to spend the money on that question to get the good answers. Second point is, I just would like to say, I had a couple of interesting conversations in Delhi and also last night at the outdoor golf course there, and I'd just like to say associations, if I may say this, also in India, and I see it in China as well, have to start thinking a little bit more like enterprises, like commercial entities, business plans. We know this in America, we know this in Europe, but we don't know it in these parts, we do not know it in Africa. So I think you have to change your approach, you have to create marketing plans, objectives, you got to create funds and employ the right staff. And if you're not able to do that for whatever reason, then so be it. But if you want to conquer the world, you got to think like a company. And then the third point, also very specifically, is just the selection of the platforms. I mean, those of you that specifically have connections, for example, to Washington, D.C., or to Brussels, or to London, you know where you travel. But as you know, the majority of Indian association people or community does not travel. Yet the world does not come enough here yet. We have opportunities like this one, but the truth is you've got to call the world to come here, or you have to travel. So if you think that you have your high tea in London or your Indian-American reception in Washington, D.C., that's fine, but you have to go out. You have to go out as a salesperson. Whoever is the right person in that association is a completely different question, because it might not be you, or it might not be your generation. But you have to go out, you have to use platforms like trade shows, like the ICA is here, Martin, NOR, International Congress and Conference Associations. You do have to go out to the world to do fishing. You cannot do the fishing from here. So these 3 thoughts in reply to the original statement of your task.
Thank you, Daniel. And with that, I would like to conclude by saying this was a large topic with a lot of input from the panel, but also from yourself as the audience. And I hope that you have made some new insights just in the few minutes around the table, exchange some cards, think about who you can lean upon and talk with in the next couple of hours and tomorrow. I think that would be useful as a conclusion. There is a lot to say about global. I'm feeling like a global citizen, being here in India, living in Brussels, but also being responsible for a lot of country development in Kellen, and dealing with associations, trade associations, professional societies, and being an executive director of a trade association in Europe. So with that, I think you all have to think what you can conclude for yourself from this session, and I hope to echo our first speaker, Mr. Theo, that you have taken maybe one idea from this session. With that, thank you very much and enjoy the break.
Thank you. Thank you so much.